Hey, Truth Seekers, welcome back. Zach here. I would like to talk about The Truman Show, a movie that came out in 1998, and how it foreshadows the world we're now living in. So, if you've never seen the film, it's about Truman Burbank, the character played by Jim Carrey. What happens to Truman Burbank is that when he is born as a baby, he is born from parents who do not want him, so he's put up for adoption. And instead of being adopted by a family, he is adopted by a corporation. In the movie, he's said to be the first child ever adopted by a corporation for the purpose of becoming the main character in an ongoing television show that runs 24/7, 365. Once this show went on television in the movie, it never came off until the very end of the film. So, there's a few things that are curious about this film, and I want to get into it, including why it's called The Truman Show. For those of you who do not know, Harry S. Truman was the 33rd president. 33rd president. He was FDR's running mate in 1944, but FDR unexpectedly died while getting treatment for his legs in the fourth state, Georgia, which happens to have a gematria of 44. He died on the 33rd parallel north, FDR. Last date in the White House had a numerology of 33. Many interesting things with the death of FDR. Once Truman came in, he immediately had tested the atomic bombs in New Mexico on the 33rd parallel on a date with a numerology of 33. And then he dropped it on Hiroshima, August 6, 1945, another date with a numerology of 33. So Harry S. Truman, one of these people who operates by the code of 33. And that should come as no surprise, seeing as how he was the 33rd president. In a little bit, we're going to get into his middle name of S. All right, so Truman Show, released June 5th, 1998. June 5th, 1998. The main character is named Truman Burbank. Up on the screen we have Pythagorean gematria here. The name Truman's 24. The name Burbank is 24. With the K exception, it sums to 33. So the full name Truman Burbank sums to 48 or 57. This is interesting because the name Jim Carrey in Pythagorean gematria also sums to 48. Here's the math for that. What do you think, Truth Seeker? Pretty interesting, huh? Truman Burbank, Jim Carrey, 48. The word Illuminati in Pythagorean gematria sums to 48. All right. When you do the name with simple English gematria, Truman becomes 87, Burbank becomes 69, put it together 156. Why is this curious? Because June 5th, the date of the release for the film, is the 156th day of the year, just like the name Truman Burbank. Probably not a coincidence, Truth Seeker. I've documented so much of this numerology, gematria in film, from Taxi Driver to this to a million more, and there's so many examples of this over and over. Shows you that this is truly how they pick the release dates for these films. So, Truman Burbank, if you haven't seen this film, he lives in essentially what is a massive stadium. In the film, it shows a picture of this stadium. It's located in the present-day Bible Belt. But instead of being the size of a sports stadium, it's the size of a state itself. And from watching the film, you see that this world he lives in is a completely artificial and synthesized world, from weather to day and night to environment to everything else. He lives in an environment that can be completely controlled from a switchboard in a studio. Truman's not aware of this, though. He thinks he lives in a real ordinary world, but he starts to figure it out soon enough. So anyhow, this number 39, recall I said it was important. The National Security Act, which Truman signed, was on September 18th, 1947. 9 plus 1 plus 8 plus 1 plus 9 plus 4 plus 7 sums to 39. Very important number in the study of numerology and gematria, and also very important to this movie. As we go along, you will see. So he lives in Sea Haven Island. Sea Haven happens to be a word with a gematria of 39. Later in the film, he's driving, and the radio station he's listening to glitches out, and all of a sudden the police broadcast comes through, and he notices the police are just talking about him, and they're following him, which really catches him off guard. He's on Lancaster Street in the film when this happens. Lancaster is also a word with a gematria of 39. If you use simple English gematria, Lancaster sums to 93, the flip of 39. The number of Thelema and the number of Saturn. Alright, so this film, it's directed by Peter Weir. In simple English gematria, he has a name that sums to 119, like Star of David. The story is written by Andrew Nicol. Look at the gematria of his name, 65 and 56. Put it together, 121. The number Revelation. So in the beginning of the film, you see Truman Burbank come out of his home. He lives in house number 36. And I recently did a post on the number 36 and its connection to 666. I showed this through the roulette wheel, which has 36 numbered spaces, a highest number of 36, and in total, all 36 numbers sum to 666, which means if you add 1 through 36, it sums to, yes, 666. What's curious is his neighbors across the street live in house 32. And for those of you who are familiar with addresses, typically on one side are odd numbers and on the other side even numbers. But in the Truman Show, it appears even numbers are on both sides. As for the number 32, I call this the number of America. America equals 32, UK equals 32, 7/4/1776, the date of the Declaration of Independence, has a numerology of 32. The word college equals 32, the word career equals 32, the word high for high school equals 32, average equals 32. Just seems to be a very American number, our number. Like, look at this guy. You can tell he's off to work his career. So shortly after this scene, Truman is enlightened because what happens is this camera falls out of the sky and smashes the ground, and he's trying to think, what in the world? If you notice, the camera says Sirius, like Sirius XM radio, like the constellation. Sirius also has the gematria of 32, like we were just talking about. Sirius sums to 32. It gives you this shot up in space of the Truman Show being broadcast with its satellite. Recall, this is a show that's on 24/7, 365. He does not know that, though. The satellite's called Truman Show 30. Well, check this out. Truman Show equals 44. Plus 30 equals 74. The main narrator for the show is called Mike Michelson. The name Mike has a gematria of 20. The name Michelson, 54. Put it together, Mike Michelson, 74. These numbers we see all the time, Truth Seeker. They're right here in this film. All right, so this right here we get several shots of. And this middle row really stands out to me. 113, 114, 115. Throughout the film, it goes to screen 114 many times. And I want to show you what's curious about this, Truth Seeker. S is the 19th letter, right? S equals 19. In English gematria, you take the simple English gematria value, which is 19, and you multiply it by 6. 19 times 6, Truth Seeker, is 114. 114. Now let's go back to that screen. This is camera 114. 114. This man shown here on screen 114 is known as Christoph in the movie. Christoph also has the gematria of 44. He is the creator of the Truman Show, so his name gematria matches Truman Show, 44. And recall that in simple English gematria, the word kill sums to 44. Also notice that 11 times 4 is 44. And what we find in this study is so often when we look at death, murder, assassination, we find the numbers 114, 411, and 44. Let me take you to gematrix.org. If you aren't familiar with this Truth Seeker, it is a great website to use in this study, save you a lot of time. I want to look at the word assassin and show you something real quick. Assassin in Jewish gematria sums to 411, right? 411, the reverse of 114. In the Bible, in Revelation 3:9, a lot like 39, the number we were talking about earlier, it references the synagogue of Satan, who are known as the false Jews. Notice that the word synagogue has a simple English gematria of 114. And when you put the whole phrase together, the synagogue of Satan, it sums to 223, like the number 322 in reverse. Synagogue of Satan. Here's some other matches in Jewish gematria. Even the word swastika. And when you think about it, Truth Seeker, who's in charge today? Just as Revelation says, it says in the end times the false Jews, the synagogue of Satan, will be in charge. And when we think about false Jews, we should think about Zionism. And when you think about movies, you often see these Zionist names on the screen because the Zionists control Hollywood and all mainstream media in this country. And here it is even coded into this film, The Truman Show. It's not an accident that he's on screen A114. Not an accident at all. All right, Truth Seeker. So, as the movie comes to an end, Truman tries to escape. He realizes something's really wrong in this world. A woman tells him that he's the center of a television show and his whole life is a hoax, a lie. So he tries to escape. And as he tries to escape, the camera shows the sail so often. 139, 139. If you go to the Bible and look up Psalm 139, it's this. For you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you. When I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth, your eyes saw me unformed substance. In your book were written, every one of them, the days that were formed for me, when as yet there was none of them. How precious to me are your thoughts, O God! How vast is the sum of them! If I would count them, they are more than the sand. I am awake, and I am still with you. So this has to do much with recognizing the Creator. And essentially that's what Truman's going through in the end. He's recognizing that he's lived an artificial life, that there's been a guiding hand behind him all this way. He realizes he is not an organic man in the sense that he thought. And what he finds out in the end is that the world he's living in is not even a real world. He finds that there's a wall and a dome around him. And here he is at the end walking along this artificial wall. He finds a set of steps, and then he finds an exit door. I don't want to give it all away to you, Truth Seeker. There's some very good dialogue in this film. And when you listen to that dialogue, which mostly comes from this man played by Ed Harris, Christoph, he speaks in a way that I would imagine the real owners and controllers of this world would speak. He justifies what he's done to Truman in creating this artificial world because he says it's better than any world that exists. He thinks the world he has created, even though it's a complete manipulation and lie, is better than anything in the real world. And he expresses this clearly to Truman. And you know what, Truth Seeker? Most people who disagree with us would express the sentiments that Christoph expresses in this movie. They would point to the fact that they like this world because they like their home, they like their car, they like their electronics, they like their gadgetry, they like their cell phones. To them, all these things make all the ills of the world worth it. And as you watch this film, Ed Harris expresses all of these sentiments. So, Truth Seeker, the movie The Truman Show is about a man who is spied on for all of his life. And it's named after the president who created the spy state we now live in. He signed into being the NSA, the CIA, and all the other spy agencies. What a lot of people don't know about Truman is that a month to the day of Kennedy's assassination on December 22nd, 1963, Truman wrote an op-ed and said the CIA needed to be gutted down to nothing. He said it didn't need to be what it was. If he would have had any idea what it was going to grow to, he never would have signed it into existence. Well, unfortunately, Truth Seeker, that never happened. The CIA has only expanded since then. But when you look through history, all the truth is out there. On December 22nd, 1963, Harry Truman essentially wrote that the CIA assassinated JFK. He essentially told the whole world. But look, nothing's happened. We've just kept moving on, moving forward. And most people don't even know that. One more point, Truth Seeker. 1998, when this film came out, that is when Nokia cell phones had just launched. I was a junior in high school at this time. And I remember how many people bought cell phones. Yours truly would not get a cell phone until 3 years later from now. I was a late mover on the cell phone. Right away, I had something against them. I just knew there was something wrong with it, just like Facebook. And now look, the cell phone is very much a part of the spy state. GPS tracking, high-def photographs, high-def recording, they've given all of us this capability. They've made us all tools in the spy state. And that's pretty much it, Truth Seeker. The Truman Show was simply an introduction to the ever-increasing spy state we were already living in. Of course, we're not actually characters in television shows, but we are all people who are spied on, have our information collected, and this information goes to people that we don't know, and we probably don't want to know. These are the parallels. All right, until next time, Truth Seeker.